Hello everyone, my name is Edika and Saturday Michael. I would be talking about business analytics and intelligence in the banking sector. Now my overview. I'll be reviewing the implementation and importance of business analytics. I'll be using tables, graphs, and dashboards to show visual representation. I'll also be exploring relationships between variables. And lastly, I'll be interpreting my findings and making data-driven recommendations. What is business analytics? Business analytics is the use of data and predictive models to help businesses make decisions. There are three types of business models. We have predictive, we have prescriptive, and we have descriptive. These are the implementation processes of business analytics. The first is define business and goals, data collection and preparation, data cleaning to avoid errors. We have initial analysis, which is using visualizations and descriptive analysis. We have modeling, that's using more predictive analytical tools. And lastly, decision making, which means using the insights from this analysis to make decisions. These are the impact of business analytics in businesses. That's the benefits and challenges. The first benefit is making data-driven decisions. This helps businesses to make decisions based on data, not based on intuitions. Second one is if the business understands its operations, it will be able to make good decisions, and that's what data analysis and business analytics does. The third one is because business analytics encourages use of visualizations, it helps break complex data for decision makers. We have challenges. We have data related challenges, which could be like poor quality and security concerns. We have operational challenge, which could be lack of skilled staff as well as poor funding. We have technological challenge, which is need for real-time data analysis and limitations in batch processing. The UK market today. The market saw a stable revenue from 2012 to 2019. However, there was a decline in 2020 due to COVID pandemic. But then the forecast shows that the revenue would rise nearly to 164 billion in 2030. This is my data set. This research analyzes financial data from 10 banks over a period of 10 years to from 2014 to 2023. The data was sourced from FAME, which is a financial database which covers six key financial variables. To ensure accuracy, this data was cleaned and analyzed with using Excel and also employed predictive and descriptive analytical tools. Now to the business of the day. This is my data visualization dashboard, and due to the limitation of time, I decided to pick four key financial variables for this. It can be seen that under profit and margin, Bank of Ireland has the highest profit margin while Metro Bank has the lowest. Also on the graph of the return on shareholders funds, it can be seen that Bank of Scotland has the highest while Metro has the lowest. And on the bar chart for turnover, it can be seen that HSBC has the highest, while Metro has the lowest. And lastly, under the graph for net tangible assets, it can be seen that HSBC has the highest, while Bank of Ireland has the lowest. Now, this is my descriptive analysis for the 10 banks, and I'll also be using the four variables that I used in my visualization dashboard. Now into the business. The mean, which represents the central tendency here, shows that turnover is 15.65 million, while the net tangible assets is 93.25 million, indicating substantial asset holdings. The profit margin has a mean of 12.47%, and the return of shareholders' funds at 5.90%, reflecting overall profitability. It can also be seen that the standard deviation shows that the turnover has 18.41 million, which suggests high variability, and the net tangible assets has 169.67 million, indicating fluctuations in assets, and the profit margin also has profit margin and the return on shareholders funds has standard deviation of 21.93% and 8.71% respectively, which reflect performance inconsistency. And finally, for the sum, turnover has 1.55 billion and net tangible assets has 932.50 million. And we can see that profit margin has 119.69%, while return on shareholders funds has 590.60%. From this descriptive analysis, it can be seen that the statistical analysis of turnover, net tangible assets, profit margin, and return on shareholders funds highlights key key financial trends. And also, it can also be seen that while most banks are doing perfectly well, most banks are underperforming and struggling. This is descriptive analysis of two banks. I picked these two banks as the best performing because of the variable I because of due to the variables I use, which are the net tangible assets and the shareholders funds. These two variables put them up as the best performing banks. Starting with the main shows that HSBC exhibits higher central tendencies in net tangible assets and shareholders funds, meaning as compared to that of Barclays, suggesting that HSBC has very high valuable and large asset and equity base. Under standard deviation, it shows that both banks show high variability in tangible assets. However, HSBC's shareholders funds has significantly higher standard deviation, indicating greater equity variability against that of Barclays that has lower deviation, which means that HSBC is at higher risk. Lastly, it can be seen that the sum of HSBC's total are significantly higher than that of HSBC, that of Barclays. It can be seen that HSBC's sum for net tangible assets and shareholders funds is higher than that of Barclays. While HSBC demonstrates a larger scale in financial performance with higher means, larger sums and more significant variability in both net tangible assets and shareholders funds. Well, Barclays has seen from this analysis, Barclays shows that Barclays has high stability. This is because Barclays has low standard deviation in shareholders funds, which means lower risk for them. Onto the correlation metrics. This correlation matrix here simply tells us that turnover and shareholders funds has high positive correlation because high turnover typically leads to increased retained earnings and capital reserves, thereby boosting shareholders' equity. It's also seen from this matrix that turnover and profit before taxation have a moderate relationship. While this is because while higher revenue generally leads to higher profits, there are some other factors that could reduce the direct impact, such as operational cost and taxes. And lastly, it can be seen that there is low correlation between turnover and return on shareholders' funds. As revenues grow does not always mean that there will be higher returns, because most times the profits might be reinvested by banks and rather than distributing it as dividends to the shareholders. Now, this is my multiple regression analysis. The R-square of my multiple regression analysis shows that 82% of the change in dependent variables can be explained by the independent variables in my regression model, which makes my regression model a perfect model. While the remaining 80 goes unexplained. The intercept at 945.265 shows that if the independent variables are zero, the dependent variable, which is turnover, will be 945.265. The coefficients in my regression model represent the impact of each independent variable on the dependent variable. A positive coefficient means that my dependent variable would increase, while a negative coefficient means that my dependent variable will reduce. A good example is the coefficient for profit before taxation, which has a positive number at 0.534. This shows that if 1 unit is added to my independent variable, that's profit before taxation, my dependent variable, which is turnover, would increase by 0.534. The reverse is the case for net tangible asset, because net tangible asset has a negative number minus 0.0268. This simply means that if net tangible assets has an increase 1 unit increase, my dependent variable would reduce by 0.0268. And the same goes for the other independent variables that have both negative and positive. Moving on to p-value. It can be seen that net tangible assets, shareholders funds, profit margin, and return on shareholders fund are statistically significant to my dependent variable, because they are significant predictors as they all have values that are lower than 0.05. However, we can see that profit before taxation is not statistically significant, meaning that they do not contribute much to predicting the dependent variables, because they have numbers lower than they have numbers higher than 0.05. My conclusion: business analytics transform and is still transforming decision making. Turnover alone is not a sufficient financial indicator. We can, from work is seen that there's a positive relationship between turnover and shareholders' funds, and the significant profit variability among the banks shows that some banks are outperforming while the rest are struggling. Recommendations: UK bank should adopt more advanced models that factor in external risk. They should push more in investment of AI and cybersecurity. Struggling banks should also try to invest in competitive market research to understand why the other banks are doing better than them. Lastly, the banks should find ways to mitigate the challenges that we discussed as organizational, technological, and data-driven challenges that we discussed in this work. Thank you so much for listening, and these are my references. Thank you.